is when we were informed about the whole initiative of the backyard gardening, and then we figured, you know what, turn it into a competition, get persons engaged, mobilized, energized in having this competition.
Right, now it would be subsistence farming is what we are talking about.
Right.
Now, Kyle, tell us something about the advantages of subsistence farming. I know we've been touching them little here and there, but let us hear the advantages.
Yes, as I said, we have been touching them here and there. So, advantages, there are like about three I would just expound on. One, of course, the bottom line. Everybody concerned about their pockets. So therefore, if you're farming, you're doing backyard farming, you're going to reduce your supermarket bill. That's one. The health aspect of it. People complain about, you know, the chemicals being put into plants that are being imported, etc. But you know that if you plant them yourself, you know what's in the ground, what you're doing is almost as organic can be, and so therefore there might not be a problem as it relates to that. Okay, and also food security, we still did. Normally it would have been just a talking point back in the day, but COVID taught us that not anymore. We need to get this thing happening. So therefore, we can use backyard gardens to help to make sure persons have nutritious meals, nutritious food at their fingertips. I remember growing up in Saddlers where when I got to school, I walk it to school, walk it back. Between school and home, my belly would be, I could get a belly full, an easy belly full. Because I go by Mr. So-and-so, pick a mango, Mrs. So-and-so, you pick a skinny, a guava, sugar apple, soursop. You want to reach back to that point. So we're not saying go and raid anybody's yard, because you know, back in the day, some of us used to do that. But what's hanging over, you can pick. So that's part of food security. Because you realize that the UN had, I think, its objective number 2 about hunger. That is one aspect that can help to fight hunger. So persons should not go hungry if foods are just right there in somebody's backyard hanging over. You know, so those are some advantages of getting back to basics, back to subsistence.
Right, and also it is cost effective.
Very much so.
Because I mean you don't have all of this huge investment that you would have in commercial farming.
Yes.
And so also additionally is that, you know, there's really no hiring of labor. It's either you who can do it or your family can chime in. So you don't have to hire anybody and you don't have to pay anybody to come and work on your little backyard garden. And it is really a source of employment as well for some people, because you may grow something and, you know, while basically it is for your family, your immediate family and so on, sometimes you have more than what you can take it to the market and you can sell, or you can encourage the community element in which you sell to people in your community.
Yes, going back to my childhood again, my grandmother have one of the best green thumbs I ever saw. Right? And so she would grow a lot of the stuff, and of course the grandchildren had to go around selling them in the community. So I had to go around knocking doors, knocking fences, knocking windows to try and get the herbs in time and all this stuff. The cassava, you know, she would grate it. Sometimes, you know, you make your bread with cassava, make your dumplings. So yes, that's another aspect where you can earn revenue as a side, let's say a side hustle, a side job, even if you have a main income earner.
That is correct. The rural areas have always been seen more for agriculture.
Yes.
And while in some places you have an exodus coming from the rural areas and going into the urban areas to live and so on, if people are involved in this sort of a subsistence type of farming, they might not see the need to have to go to the urban areas to look for work and all of that sort of a thing, because they can manage within the rural areas. So it sort of is a check really on rural and urban movement.
It is.
If you want to put it that way. Another thing, of course, is that to have a backyard garden doesn't require any sort of a specialization. You don't have to have a degree in agriculture. You know, it is something very simple.
It is.
You don't have to be any big time farmer or anything like that. But I was happy to hear that there was support that was being offered to these subsistence farmers by the Ministry of Agriculture, providing seeds and providing fertilizer and providing pesticides and that sort of thing.
Our extension services actually go out to backyard farmers also, not just the commercial farmers, but backyard gardeners. They can take advantage of extension officers and the like.
For Mr. Williams, there is this officer. Well, I think he's just about going on retirement, but it was really a drive from Mr. Stuart Versailles for this whole backyard gardening initiative, and this came even long before the pandemic when he started it. And so he has been one of the main leaders of our committee, right? And he has been going out to these registrants every week. Basically, he has dedicated a lot to backyard gardening. I actually went out with Mr. Versailles, and we went knocking on people's doors because Mr. Versailles passed houses, and he said, "Oh, I see a backyard gardening here," and stop and ask, "You know who lives inside here?" And so we got persons interested and got them to register. So he really was a forceful drive for this whole competition. Even before he thought it would have been a competition, the competition actually came from the Ministry of Tourism's end, because we saw something good that they were doing, and as we said, it's a stem from the Best Village competition. So Mr. Verse has really, I think he really appreciates the fact that we're even here to promote the backyard garden
in the fields right
initiative.
Now. Yes. In the fields right now, applying the treatments.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And even though he's about to be retired, he has dedicated his time on vacation right now to still assist us to ensure that the competition comes to an end. So as a matter of fact, today he's out with the other officer, Miss Thomas, and he's given the second round of fertilizers and spray to the plants. He has even been working on Saturdays to ensure that the farmers get what it is that they need, so that by time the judging time everybody is completed.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, Kyle, you spoke about something very interesting. You spoke about wanting to get people's hands back into the soil. However, you know today that some people don't want to put their hands in the soil. Of course, this whole idea that it's a dirty thing and so on. But you also mentioned the whole idea of, so that is the traditional farming, having your hands in the soil. But you mentioned more innovative forms of farming like hydroponics. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, so yes, I taught for about 13 years. I taught agricultural science, among other subjects. And during that time, you would realize that some of these classes for agriculture by fifth form, very small. Nobody wanted to do the subject. So this year, the ministry have taken an initiative, we call it the Education Initiative, where we're trying to go out and educate or sell the sector, sell the subject, sell the area of expertise to students. So we, like I said, the traditional, they don't want to see that right now. So we're looking at more non-conventional methods of farming. Hydroponics is farming without the use of soil. So you can have your plants in some nice troughs, or you can have them in some styrofoam containers and water to the bottom to feed the plants and things like that. You can have a nice shade house, a nice greenhouse, and you do production in that. The monkeys are a problem in St Kitts, and so we're trying to encourage protected farming also.
And the thing about it is that the monkeys are now part of the backyard.
Well, that is
so
true.
you have them to contend with as well.
Because some of them did complain about monkeys.
And then she said they're assisting in the harvesting.
For their own benefit. So yes, we're trying to get more innovative methods to lure in the youth, also the women in agriculture. We're trying to get all of them, all hands on deck, as I said before. So look forward to more news about what we're going to do as the Ministry of Agriculture as it relates to getting youth more involved. Right now we're going to partner with the CFBC, and we're going to do we're going to help them technically, give them advice and stuff like that. And so you'll see a lot more in innovative ways coming forward.
Right. Now, in the competition that you have, is there anyone who has used that form of technology, hydroponics technology?
I don't think in the competition, no.
Traditional farming.
Yeah.
The traditional
Off the top of my
farming,
head?
Yes.
you've had no one.
In traditional farming, yes, but
We've had persons doing the hydroponic farming, but not in the competition.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we're hoping that maybe next year we'll be able to have an integration of more.
Some of them are engaged in protected farming though, because some of them
Right.
have their cages and things like that to protect their crops from monkeys and
We
other
have
bad
a few.
actors. So you have a few who are
Innovative
in
way.
protected but not hydroponics per se.
itself.
Right, and then you have what you call the aquaponics, where people as well, in their space, in their home, in this, space that they have at their homes and so on, can have fish.
Yes. And use the waste from the fish.
And
to
use the waste from the
feed,
fish.
Feed the plant. Yes.
To feed the plant.
Yeah, nutrients for the plants. Yes.
Right. And not only that, while we're talking basically in terms of crops, I know it's a backyard gardening, which kind of limits it, but when we're talking about subsistence farming, it goes beyond backyard gardening.
It does.
Because, you also have livestock. And when I was growing up, for example, we used to have sheep. And I remember every morning
Yes,
I
sir.
had to go out to tie the sheep
Before
out
school.
on the pasture, what they used to call at that time nuts ground in Molyneux, because they used to grow a lot of nuts there and so on. And in the afternoon you had to go out and you have to bring back bring the sheep in, and they're under the house. That time the house was on nogs and that sort of a thing. So that is all a part of as well of subsistence farming, even though it is not included here in the whole thing of backyard gardening, but livestock.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I know
That is,
because
because one of the initiatives we did last year during the COVID time was rabbits. I think AICA came on board to help us with the production of rabbits. So we gave persons in the backyard some rabbits. But what happened is that, based on what the PS said, some of them, they became pets. And so they were afraid to eat them. So that's what happened there. But yes, we are encouraging. We want some broiler production, we want some rabbit production and things like that. So yes, the livestock are a large part of our overall vision of farming in general, backyard and commercial.
well, I had my share of rabbits from the same initiative.
How did that
So
go?
I got my 2 rabbits, and I now have 8 rabbits. I have 6 young ones. Yeah,
Nice.
so mine is totally different to the pet, the petting concept. But it was really
So you're gonna eat
a
yours?
different initiative and really nice. And I heard persons were actually trying to get their names on the list for the next sets that they would actually be giving out.
Right. No, I know that we spoke about the COVID-19 pandemic. We spoke about the lockdowns and so on that we had initially, for March, for a few months really, and so on. And it gave people an opportunity maybe to be in their back gardens and to be in their flower gardens and that sort of a thing. But something more importantly that gardening does. And what do you think that is?
Exercise.
Stress relief.
It's exercise, which is very healthy,
Yes.
and it is also
Stress
stress
relief.
relief as well. Because especially if when you were having these lockdowns and all of this sort of a thing, it frees your mind.
Yes,
it
yeah,
helps
it
you
does.
to, because if you're in the house all the time,
Fresh
of course,
breeze.
the fresh breeze and staying close to the earth.
Yes, the purpose.
Actually, there's a study by the International Association of Horticulture Producers that says that farming in general increases life satisfaction, the quality of life, builds sense of community, and these are the things that we want to happen. We want to bring back this sense of pride, having persons, as he was saying earlier, we used to have this barter system where my grandmother had something, and maybe my grandmother had pumpkins, and your grandmother had potatoes, and I want some potato dumpling. I said, I'm going over Miss Maisie to get some potatoes. That's the
That's
type
right.
of thing. This sense of community, love in the community. We need to get back to where we were before, and these types of initiatives we believe will bring that back.
Yeah, that is an important part of it. The physical part of it, which is the exercise that you get, and then the mental part of it.
Yeah.
You know, I have a very good friend who, you know, I don't want to call his name on this program, but, you know, he works for government, and, you know, he has won a senior government job. And I admire him because he always says, you know, when I leave here in the afternoon, I go to my garden. I go to my garden, and that is where I really distress. That is where I really, you know, I can think, and I can, you know, so that in itself is a plus.
Yes,
It is.
The physical and the mental benefits that come from the emotional well-being.
And you feel a sense of self-fulfillment when you're eating something that you actually grew.
That you actually
You saw from
do.
a seed to a seedling all the way to harvest. You feel a sense of pride, self-accomplishment. So yeah.
And I have an aunt actually who, well, more than one, that loves, they love gardening. And not only do they love gardening, but they get a sense of fulfillment, self-fulfillment, when they can take their flowers and use their own flowers to decorate in their homes, you know, putting them in vase and all of that sort of a thing. Something that you yourself, you know, would have watered, would have grown, would have nurtured, and then to see it bloom, the final product and so on, brings that sense
Fills you
of
up, man.
satisfaction.
Yes, it
Yes, it
does.
is.
That's true.
Yes, it is.
You're eating what you would have grown, not what somebody else supplied for you. And of course, because you're eating what you would have grown, you know what you're
You
eating.
know what's in
Yes,
it.
it is.
And that is why you spoke about the organic. You're promoting the organic. Why the organic?
Because, we know that farming is basically what promotes healthy living, and as Mr. Flanders was saying earlier, that when we import food, we do not know what type of chemicals, we don't
Yes.
know how they are being monitored, we don't know if during the time of harvesting if they were just the application would just happen, because you know you have a period in which application is done before you could harvest these things. So we don't know. There are lots of unknowns. But when you do that, when you have an organic chemical that has been added, you know the breakdown process is much quicker. It is safer. So the end result is that you are eating something that is healthier for you. So that's why we are promoting organic uses.
Right. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the competition.
Yes.
Tell us more about the competition.
Well, I can tell you that at the end of the competition, we're going to have some really awesome prizes for persons, even though generally we had no idea as such as to...
Before we even get into the prices, I want you to tell me, for example, how many entries you have, how many people applied, the applicants, the categories for judging, the sort of the criteria that you use for judging. I need to know those nitty-gritties so that people, you know.
Okay, so we have 37 registrants, right? We have 26 for the vegetable, and we have 11 for the ornamental. For the judging now, Mr. Verses is really the one who would have put this together, so we're going to try our best to see if we can go through this, right? For the judging, it's under 3 segments, which would be, 3 plus a bonus segment. First is plant cultivation and health. We have layout, and then the third is environment. And I think you would have heard us speak, Mr. Flanders would have spoken about the drone footage that will take place from tomorrow and Friday. That is the bonus segment. We're giving persons an opportunity to score an extra 5 points by just been in their gardens as taking a photo for agriculture and the Ministry of Tourism's benefit as well as theirs, right? And so under the plant cultivation and health, we have, they're going to be judged on 8 different segments, totaling 40 points, 5 points each. Creative methods adopted and implemented, the use of the garden space. I mean, as you said, some persons have very little garden space.
Yes.
Health of plants, the vigor of it, pest control, weed control, identification of plants, which is labeling, not just growing, but you come into the garden, and even for other persons, you don't know what certain plants are, but with the labels, you'll be able to identify it.
Yes.
Right.
And use of water, conservational methods, proper use of crop integration practices.
And in the second category, which is the layout, we're looking at it's total 15 points, 5 points each. Physical layout of the garden, so we're going to look and see exactly how you decided to lay out your garden, where the
Yes.
footpaths are, that kind of thing. The organization of the plants in the garden. Again, remember I spoke about the integration. So you want to know if you're going to pair your plants properly. You want to have one that's tall to give the other one things like that. Then also the clear walk path, that's 5 points. So we want to know that you have access to your overall garden. Don't be walking through, trotting down itself or stretching over. You know, we want to know that you have comfortable access to the garden.
Right. And the last segment will be the environment. We want persons to, utilize recyclable material in the garden. We'll be able to see the impact of the recycled material used, the uniqueness. When I enter your garden, what aspect of garden or what materials we use that give it something totally different that I've never seen before. We want to have this wow factor when we enter your garden. And obviously the sustainability aspect of it is not about just gardening for competition, but as we've been preaching all day and throughout the competition, but be able to feed yourself and your family if it goes to that.
Right. So you good point that you're making in terms of the sustainable farming.
Right.
Because that is really tied to farming and in terms of how we treat the environment.
Yes. Yes. And again, how clean you keep your environment, the sanitation of the garden. And the last aspect would be the judge score, which is the bonus score. And as we said, it is based on the aerial footage that will be taking place tomorrow and Friday. So this is what the participants received and they'll be working off of.
Okay. Now you have a committee. You would have a panel of judges. Do you mind sharing, for example, where your applicants would have come from? All around the country?
Yes.
Are they concentrated in a particular...
The competitors?
The competitors,
Oh,
I
yes.
mean.
Yes. All over. We have participants from all over Sandy Point, Bird Rock, Taylor, St. Peter's, Halfway Tree, Cedar Grove, even in those nice big areas of Cedar Grove. We have Old Road, Newton Ground, Ocean Garden. So it's really right around the island. So it's not just stationed on the west side or mostly on the eastern side of the island.
So it's a real national event.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
And then you were speaking in terms of what rewards would be given. The prizes.
Yes. Everybody likes a reward at the end of doing something great. Makes the competition even more competitive when you hear that you're getting lovely prizes. So for vegetable, first prize, we will be given ground cover, an irrigation system, wheelbarrow, a gardening toolkit which comprises of one machete, one hand trowel, a pick, a rake, scuffle hoe, and a secateur. right? And we'll also be giving them a lovely basket, a plaque from both the Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Agriculture, assorted seeds. It sounds interesting, right? Gardening hose and control head. Now that is only the first prize. Now you enter just the competition and thinking, okay, I'm just doing this because my garden looks lovely and I think, but I'm not thinking I would be rewarded with such if I win first prize. The second prize is a little simpler, of course, which has irrigation system, wheelbarrow, the gardening toolkit, a basket, a plaque, assorted seeds, and gardening hose with control head. For the third prize, we have an irrigation system. So all three would be getting an irrigation system as well as the gardening toolkit. They'll also be getting a basket, a plaque as well, assorted seeds to continue farming, of course, and the gardening hose with the control head.
All right, for the ornamental, first prize, irrigation system, wheelbarrow, a gardening toolkit, with the same tools that you mentioned earlier, the plaque, the basket, and the gardening hose. Also for second prize, they're only what first and second for the ornamental because of the number that went in. So irrigation system, gardening toolkit, the basket, the plaque, gardening hose, with the control head 50 feet.
Now, Mr. Williams, doesn't the prizes sound really
very, very attractive?
Very,
very attractive.
Yes. Collaborative.
It's a pity I don't have a back garden.
But that doesn't mean that you can't gear up yourself for next year.
For next year, maybe I'll try a thing.
Oh no, this year.
Well,
Later in the year.
I might try a thing. But let us go to the phone lines and see if we have any callers. So the numbers to call are 1-718-577-2916. That is 1-718-577-2916. That's the international number. And the local number is 465-2555. 465-2555. We welcome your calls. Right. So you were saying that we would have had workshops and all of that for the subsistence farmers and so on. I was thinking, this is so important what you're doing, because in any economy, what is being encouraged is small businesses. And when you look around town, really, you see people who are selling. They're selling their fruits, they're selling their vegetables, whether it is mango, whether it is guineps or skinips or whatever we call them in different countries, the chetnet or whatever. In different countries they call them different names within the Caribbean. Or they're selling their soursop, or they're selling their tibush, their pumpkin, they have their stalls and they're selling. And that is so important, because sometimes we like to think about big economy and big business. But really and truly, the engine of growth of any economy is really the small businesses.
And that is why we're encouraging the clusters to be formed, integrating other businesses with the local farmers, small businesses that are being created. We want to get more out of the...
We have a call. Working for you, good afternoon. Good afternoon, working for you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to your guests there. Now, I so agree with everything you all say about backyard garden farming, because it's so important, especially under this COVID-19. I remember when I was a young man coming up. We used to mountain ground. But let me tell you something, we had the backyard garden too. And everyone in the community had their little backyard garden. They had pumpkin, they had sweet potato, they had nuts. They had everything you want in your backyard garden. You up your time and everything. Nothing big. You know, in the mountain you plant it big. And people used to produce from the backyard garden and live off a backyard garden. I remember some people didn't want to go in the mountain.
Okay, we seem to would have lost that caller.
Hello, Adia. Hello. Hello.
We can't hear.
Hello. Hello.
Right. So we were talking about the small businesses, the entrepreneurship, you know, in terms of these subsistence farmers being able to ply their trade, to make some money, of course, which is one of the advantages, and not only that, to provide a service to the community, which is very, very important. Not only are they can feed themselves, but they can sell some of what they produce to feed others, and in a very healthy way.
Yes.
And we've been seeing a lot of more vegetable and fruit stalls that have been erected around the island. When you're driving past, you'd realize places that would have just been empty, we are seeing persons now erecting stalls, and we're hoping that from this backyard garden competition initiative that we'll be able to encourage healthier snacking from persons as well. More stalls mean that your options will be more fruits as well, not just growing vegetables but also fruits as well. So what has been happening with the erection of more stalls, vegetable stalls, is definitely something that I think agriculture is very pleased for.
Of course.
Preaching about this, growing local for years, and now we are seeing more persons growing more local foods and vegetables.
Yes.
And I think that is definitely something that they loved.
And to close the loop as it relates to small businesses and entrepreneur, you have the agro processes, as we mentioned earlier, so that prevents wastage, wastage of food and fruits. If you don't get it sold at one point, you can take it to the agro processors and they can turn that into something with value added, jams, jellies, even take one banana, make banana bread, sell, that kind of thing. So everything just falls into each other.
Yes, right. I would invite that caller who called before to call back. We were having some difficulty in hearing what you had to say. So please do call back. It seems as though you had a very important point that you wanted to make. Right. Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to speak about with respect to the backyard garden competition?
Just to let persons know that the final judging days are the 3rd and 4th of March. We have a panel of 5 judges. 6 judges, sorry. They're technocrats and not so much technocrats, because we want to diversify the answer and make it as transparent and authentic as possible in terms of the results, so that there's no body saying that they're unsatisfied with the results. So that will happen on the 3rd and the 4th.
We have a caller. Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. Yes.
You and you get them there. I believe you are doing a wonderful job to encourage more people to do backyard gardening, because that is how we come up in life. Them saying you have extra land that you could have farm peace, and then that's if you control the land, you could have farm peace and then do a backyard gardening and make a little money. You understand?
Yes.
And the next thing again, I want to encourage the young men and women in the federation, to see that, to go that way, because it's very important. This is the way I come up in life. Now, some people, right, they prefer to plant flowers, they prefer to plant this, they prefer to plant that. But when you plant your pumpkin and your little sweet potato and your little herbs and your thyme, they come beg the piece, but they got a nice flowers garden. And I believe that backyard garden. I say that to people right now, even up in McKinley, living off of the backyard garden, paying the light bill, paying some of them paying the water bill, the light bill off of the garden. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she told me that the old garden she don't pay she bills. You understand?
Yes.
And I believe that if we do more of that, I believe that, you see, look how this COVID in right now. If people was in more backyard garden, we would not have so much problem.
Right.
You understand? We don't live off our own yard, our own soil, plant, and grow. And you could even sell. You understand? Because most people now buying things from these backyard garden farmers. And I'm just trying to encourage the young men and women to find something positive to do. Those, especially those who just say they can't find nothing to do. And we got land up and down, wasting up and down. You could be a little backyard, but you know, a little extra land by your neighbor, you go off the neighbor, walk up the piece of land. You know, I just give me some sweet potato and some pumpkin. I think give me no other. Out to the backyard, you just give me them, just give me them. You understand?
Yes.
So it's important to educate the people and to work on in the federation. Good program as usual. God bless.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.
For your input. Working for you. No, there's no caller. The difference between the vegetable garden, of course, is that it's the backyard. Working for you. Good afternoon.
That's right.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Okay, you got a great day just now.
Yes.
Yeah, as usual.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you and your other guests there on the program for educating the whole nation, all who are listening. But one thing I don't agree with you all, using this word backyard. Let us use left yard, right yard, and front yard. Because
I don't understand what you mean.
a man had he big backyard. And he had a shop. And while he in front in the shop, he took the nut-tailed thief, went in the man's backyard. Thief the man big pumpkin and bring it round to the front and sell it. So I would suggest anybody who have a backyard, make sure you have a good fencing. Or you put your front of your house, turn it round to the back, there you go see your garden. But this yard planting, I observed that a couple of years ago when I was living with my mother. She had a little space in the front of her yard, up on the left side. It wasn't bigger than a sheet of plywood, which is 8 by 4. And when I see what she put in the kitchen from the little yard, I said, well, yard could pay. But not to the back, come to the front. But
Yeah.
keep up this program with the education.
Usually the ornamental aspect of it is in the front.
Definitely.
The flowers are in the front and the vegetables are in the back.
Yeah, but they come in front for the ornament, you know.
They're going to the back for the
Are
vegetables.
you looking back?
Where people have to put additional security in place, get dogs or something.
Or it has some kind of decorated plants with some point.
Yes.
Yeah, you put them there by your fence and spread them out that they can't jump over.
Right.
And I have a suggestion for everybody. The more tamarind or tamon we eat, it is better for us.
Okay.
It builds up our immune system. So when Mr. COVID believed he could come in here, he can meet us, our immune system well strong, and he can go somewhere else. So that's my advice. Eat a lot of tamarind and green lime and all kind of vitamin C.
Right.
So that's my advice.
Yes, and he has mentioned a very good point. Thank you very much for your call. Very much appreciated. Working for you. Good afternoon. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to the panel.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's a joy and pleasure for being doing something in your backyard. And to be honest with you, I got some good stuff out of my backyard because I'm one in the competition as well.
Oh.
When you look at the stuff that you get, the smile on your face, tell you, wow, anybody else can do it.
Very
So
good.
I'm encouraging other people, even you, Mr. Williams, the panel, you guys to join the Backyard Association.
Yes, yes.
You know, So you was up in your backyard.
Yes.
Okay?
I actually planted something in my backyard the other day, but I don't see it really growing yet. I like spinach and so on, so I planted some spinach, but I'm yet to see it grow.
I have to come and visit you to see what is your problem then.
Yes,
Because I have spinach at
I
home
probably
as
need
well,
some
and
technical help. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. So that was one of your competitors. Yeah, and she's basically, you know, extolling the wonders of what can actually come from the backyard garden.
And we're happy that she called in, because then you will see that what we were trying to, the message is being heard, and you have it first-hand experience as well.
Yes.
Right, and then the caller before her mentioned something very, very important in terms of the link between what you are growing and your health.
Yes.
You know, once ago, we had a lot of bush teas. People actually grow their bush teas, their basil, their sage, you know, lemongrass, and all cattle tongue and so
everything
on.
had a health benefit.
Yes, and they're actually growing them in their yard. And so therefore, when they get sick and so on, they can go to, you know, have this bush and have that bush and so on and so on. You know, and these were some of the home remedies,
Right.
you know, that people usually use when they get sick. I mean, my great-grandmother, you know, God bless her soul, Auntie Rose, she knew. We used to call her Auntie Rose, but she was my great-grandmother. But we call her Auntie because that's what everybody call her,
Auntie Rose.
Auntie Rose. But she knew all these bushes. When you were sick, what to give you, and that sort of a thing. I mean, she was a pharmacist, really. She was a pharmacist, you know.
Without a degree.
That is correct, without a degree. She knew what bush is good for this and what bush is good for that. You know, and these are just some of the things, you know. We can have healthy living just by what we cultivate. Healthy living is also having a backyard garden.
It is.
It is living healthily by growing the things that would nourish us, making use of the earth that God has given to us.
Yep. You know, Mr. Williams, when we thought of having this competition, right, we thought on an even larger scale, because, you know, for community tourism, it's a lot of beautification that is involved, right? So if we can have persons already start fueled with the passion of growing their own ornamental plants, especially, right? Probably in some of the abandoned.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
When I was younger and I had my first child, the child just keep on bawling.
Yes.
And this old lady comes and she take the child from me and she carried me up by what the gate. Where my can't see, where Dr. Kelsey house me.
Yes.
And he had a tree there. And she picked a piece of leaf. She took off the child diaper, them people used to wear diaper. And she tickled the child bum. And the mess will come out. She said, this is what have the child bawling.
The child was constipated.
Huh?
The child was constipated.
Yes, she said, you don't go up by the doctor anytime you see the baby time to go up, go and get the castelline bush.
Yes.
And tickle the bum.
Yes.
And it don't come out. So the old people, them did not a lot. And next time again, my son, I used to carry him, Dr. Simon, was his brother, every minute he got his reason sharpness of bread. And this day, my father had his papaya tree in the garden. And the little boy take me with it, and then the father call him, cut out the fence by his garden, walk him through there, and he measure him, and he cut out piece of here, and you remember the big penny? Remember the brass penny?
Yes, I remember that.
He took the brass penny with one of them galvanized broad nails, where you some galvanized, and to measure him. And then he took the kind of wire where the fence or fish pot and so, and he sent home which that he measured by the tree, and he said, nobody got deal. And my son, let God bless him, Saturday, I'm gone. He never had the reading again.
Right.
And that tree steady, and it died down. And then when it turned brown, he went, he took the bush, he dried it, and he gave him a bottle of it to drink. And my son never, ever sick again. He ain't gonna rotten teeth anymore. I wonder if it's that making me see them so old.
Praise the Lord.
And my son 40 something else. So the old people, them was doctor. They didn't know what they're doing.
That's right.
This is dumpling.
Okay, Dumpling. Thank you.
Thank you.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Yeah, but that's right.
Yes, good afternoon.
You know, look at the natural soil here, the natural land, the healthy land. You know that if we was living off our natural land and the natural soil, you know, we could have cared about COVID.
Yeah.
You understand? Because when I see that where we come from, these yam, these sweet potato, Jashin, Tanya, when they're telling us them bad for us, people screaming for them now, they're good for our health. Because the still started and very good.
Yes.
Now look at it now. We living up on this fast food, high blood pressure, sugar, obesity, and all those things. You understand? Kidney failures and all those things. Back in our days, not a thing like them. Because we used to live off our natural land, eat our cassava bread. We got cassava plant in the yard. You see your mother go and we scrape the cassava, they squeeze it out, they joint, they eat the starch and so out it. We turn cassava cococan, you call it cassava can, cococan, and fish. And all those things we enjoy when we coming up young.
Yes.
Let's cook it, and these are the food we used to eat. You know, nothing but you used to get a little chicken pack, a little measles, and all those things, some of them a little hard boil. Maybe mums and them things used to come around long term, and there used to be vaccine for all those things. I believe that if we was living off our natural soil, our natural land, we could have care about vaccine and all those things.
Yes.
Because everybody will be healthy, and these things will come around and run affect us. Because we eat out of our natural soil.
Yeah.
All right then.
Thank you so much for your call. So you see, the whole initiative that you would have started, the project and so on, people are actually seeing the benefits of it. You know, and the link between that and so many benefits of growing your own food in your backyard garden. The health benefits he spoke about. The lady before, she spoke about the tibush and all of that sort of a thing and how that helps. Then Kyle, of course, you mentioned on this program the advantages. You know, it's cheaper in the long run for people. You don't have to go to the supermarket to spend money when you actually have your stuff in your yard.
And now the doctor bill could be reduced
The
because
doctor bill can be reduced.
the health aspect.
You know, it offers some employment for people. It offers some income. You can actually feed your family. You know, from your garden.
The mental
And the physical benefits and so on. So it is a good initiative between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Tourism. An excellent initiative and partnership that you have. Anything else you would like to say, Sherry?
I was just going to add, right, that even though they are starting the initiative right in their backyards, right, which we really love. We would hope that it grows to even further within the communities. You'd realize that there are a lot of abandoned homes, yards, and instead of just having your own backyard garden, the community can come together to create community gardens, beautification gardens, or vegetative gardens. Everybody can benefit from the areas that are just abandoned. At the end of the day, when tourism hits back on the ground, we should be able to have beautiful environments that is catered for from all persons. That national pride would have already been ignited from your very backyard and spread within the community. Now it only takes for one community to start, and then, you know, every other community is going to want their community to look even better than the other community. So using those abandoned spaces, we're hoping that persons will take the initiative for those. Clean them up. Persons don't want to take responsibility for the areas, but after you start cleaning, you're going to see persons coming. But they too can be a part of the same initiative where everybody can benefit, right? Don't you agree, Mr.
I agree. You mentioned a very good point, which has to do with the pooling of resources.
Yes.
And of course, sometimes that is how, you know, in small communities and so on, you have people coming together, pooling their resources and so on. And basically, that has been how cooperatives have come about.
Yes.
You know, farmers, cooperatives and so on. People coming together and pooling their resources. And they are building the community.
Yes, they are.
You know, and that is the whole thing. Community agriculture, community tourism, and so on. At the end of it all, everyone benefits.
Exactly. Because again, even though we're the Ministry of Tourism, you are not just looking at persons who are coming in from plane or from the boats. We have to look at the people on the ground, our local people. Make sure that whatever we produce, it's for their benefit first. And then our external visitors will reap the benefits as well. But look in-house first.
Yes, and that is what we call sustainable living.
Right.
That is sustainable living. Planting our own food in our back gardens, eating what we produce, and feeding the community with what we have is really sustainable living.
Right.
We are out of time. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we leave?
Just to thank everybody who has assisted in getting this initiative off the ground, all our judges, Mr. Versailles, the participants who are the lifeblood of this competition, the Ministry of Agriculture, everybody who
our
has
sponsors,
assisted, our
even if you don't know you are going to sponsor as yet, we thank you in advance.
So who are some of your sponsors?
We do not have anything finalized as yet, but that's why we are thanking them in advance.
Oh, I see.
For now, the Taiwanese mission. For now, the Taiwanese.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. You know, we thank God for the Taiwanese, because they have been a tower of support.
Yes, they have.
Really, in terms of supporting communities, supporting our agricultural initiative, and so many other initiatives that we have in this country. I don't know if any one of you have ever been to Taiwan, but going to Taiwan and basically seeing how the Taiwanese have developed that country, developed agriculture in that country, it is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you go to certain homes, you would realize that they're growing rice in their backyards. You know, so this is not something new to them. And so therefore, they feel right at home with initiatives like what you have embarked upon. You know, and we are eternally grateful to them. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, Kyle Flanders, and to congratulate you in your new position, even though you know January you said you've been there, as Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Kyle Flanders. Mrs. Shailene, welcome. Lewis, I noticed she has an additional surname, so it means then that she got married at some point. The last time she was here, she was not married. And Shailene, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
In your marriage.
Thank you.
And she's Community Tourism Officer in the Ministry of Tourism. And Mrs. Teres Ambrose Versells. Or Stuart Versells is your is your husband, and so therefore, you're a tourism research officer. No wonder you were so au fait with the material in terms of agriculture and all of that.
Professional.
Quite versatile.
Purely professional.
And also I know that you speak Spanish, so I say un placer.
Igualmente.
Okay. I want to thank all of our callers and our listeners to today's program. Thank you so much for being a part of this discussion, which has to do with how we grow. We use the earth to nourish us in terms of what we grow and so on. And it's actually healthier for all of us. The Backyard Garden Initiative put on by the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Tourism. Thank you very much. Next week we will be back with another edition of Working for You. Until then, I am Lesroy Williams. Take care.